from LSU football this week because, look, I think you and I pretty much understand and feel and think and know when you play an FCS opponent like this, the strong likelihood is that you are not going to be in a tight game with them. Now, not saying it's not possible, not saying it can't be close. Things happen every single week. Things have happened before where FCS opponents have knocked off big Power 5 opponents or Power 4 opponents. I mean, we always remember the App State-Michigan game, even though that rarely ever happens. But there's just not a lot of things I don't want to see. Let me tell you some that I don't, though. There's only two. Number one, show me that you are going to be more diverse in the running game. Stop running all that inside zone. Now, you ran some counter last week, but everything that you pretty much ran, like 95% of the things that you ran last week from the running game was in the inside. You can't do that. You have to be very diverse when you have two premier offensive tackles. Now, did Emory Jones have a rough game at times last week? Yes. Does he need to get some things rolling? Yes. But if you have a third down, why aren't you scheming up running right behind Will Campbell? Because Will didn't have a bad game at all. At all. So I look at him and I look and say to myself, look, this is a game and an opportunity to where you can be very diverse. Guys, I don't mind experimenting with some things early. And I know that seems and feels like that I am downing an opponent, and I shouldn't be doing that. You're right, I shouldn't. But if things start getting hairy in the second quarter, okay, stop playing around, get after it. You know, last week you did a motion where Xavier Thomas came in the backfield and ran the ball for 5 yards. I kind of want to see more of that creativity. I really do want to see some more of that creativity. So, excuse me. So, you got to be more diverse in the running game so that you're able to attack. Number two, the only other don't that I don't want to see this week, like that's vastly, I don't think that this is even a remote possibility that it's going to happen. Continue to be aggressive and do the things that you want to do on defense. Right? Like, continue to be that attacking style of defense that you showed last week. Because if you do that and you make that the basis of who you are and what you want to be, I'm completely fine with that. I just don't have a lot of don'ts. Now, I could come in here and say, don't take this team lightly. Don't come in here and say, we're just going to run through them. And then we're struggling midway through the second quarter. Like, those are all things that can be very true. Very true. I just don't see a world where that's going to happen. It's not because I'm a Southeastern alum that I think Nichols is going to get their shit pushed in. Maybe that has something to do with it. I just don't see a world where you can't not continue to be aggressive. Guys, I hate the thought process. I hate the logic from coaches who say, look, we don't want to show anything. We don't want to put anything on film. Guys, the more things that you put on film, the more they have to prepare for, especially when you do it from the same looks and the same personnel and the same packages. If on defense, you run 10 plays out of the same personnel and it's very diverse, and then next week you continue to do other things based off of your defense, it makes the other coaches' jobs that much more difficult. I know a lot of you that know coaches out there. Maybe some of you can just text a coach right now. Ask them what the most difficult thing for them to game plan for is. Diversity. I think Blake Baker's going to do that. Here's some of the do's that we got to see. Like, these are the non-negotiables that we have to see. We have a lot. We have 6. The first thing I want to see is shots down the field from Garrett Nussmeier. Look, all offseason, you and I had discussions about Nussmeier and being a little bit more conservative. What I never expected in a million years was that last week that he would get hamstrung that much that you pulled the reins back from him as much as you did. Now, LSU's probably going to do what we're talking about here, and they're going to replicate what happened last year from week 1 to week 2. Brian Kelly and Joe Sloan are going to come out. They're going to take shots. They're going to get some playmakers in space. They're going to get Kyron Lacy the football a lot. And hopefully, in an ironic way, you hope that Kyron Lacy gets into the third quarter, because can you show that you can make that halftime adjustment? What about CJ Daniels that needs to get some action and some love here? Take those shots downfield. I don't care if you complete them or don't complete them, because I think it's way too early in the season to be worried about that at this exact moment. Take shots downfield. Show teams that you can be aggressive and get the ball vertical. Number 2, dominate the lesser opponent. It's ironic. Last week, a lot of these big-time programs, Michigan, I know they only gave up 10 points. It is what it is. Texas, a lot of these opponents that played these lower teams, a lot of them were dominating. Right? Like, they dominated their opponent. Texas shutting out Colorado State last weekend is a big thing that I look at. Guys, I'm not saying you got to shut them out, but let's not let the first half of Grambling happen again. Remember how in the beginning of the Grambling game, you're like, what is going on? I want to see a dominant performance. I know it's Nichols. I know you're going to call me crazy, and I know that it's probably possible that that's going to happen. But I really want you to get after their ass. Because what do competitors want to do? When you have something bad in sports, it's like a guy that's going through a slump in baseball. He just wants to get that one hit to get that bad taste out of his mouth. Pause. Go out there and dominate them. Break their will. And I get it's Nichols, and they're here to collect a check and make money for their program. Guys, Nichols isn't coming in here to lose either. A lot of those guys over there have dreamed of coming out through a tunnel in Death Valley, and they're going to come out swinging. I hope that our guys can show that they have resolve and focus and don't take this game lightly at all. Excuse me. I'm kind of coming down with a little bit of a cold here, so I'm sorry. I apologize. Kids going back to school, man. You always know you're going to get a little sick in there. Number 3. I want you to mix up the secondary. This is a non-negotiable for me. In a game like this, I want you to go out there in the secondary defensively, move Sage back to safety. Move Major Burns out. Get Jawan Johnson in there at the star. Get Harold Perkins out there at the star and see what happens on a couple of plays. He actually did that, ironically. If you go back and watch the film, he was actually in that position a couple times. Blake Baker. Remember it was the first drive that USC had, and Blake Baker sent Harold Perkins off the edge, and he tackled, I think it was both Woody Marks and Miller Moss. Remember that was the first drive of the game. I do think that they're going to mix some things up, and I think you're going to see some different things at corner. And I think you need to remember me saying this. Jordan Gilbert's going to be out for the first half because of the targeting. And I think what's going to be more interesting is that BK, when he talked about his defense this week, what did he say? He said, I think we played it good in every area besides one. And Wilson Alexander asked him where, and he said safety. Well, you have one safety out. And I'm starting to question a little if you're not going to mix a couple of more things up. I think that they want Sage Ryan on the football field. I do. Whether that's going to be at safety, whether it's going to be at the star, I don't know what they're going to do. But I do think that they're going to get a lot of young guys in early, and they're going to rotate a lot of guys to see what they have there. And don't be surprised if you see some young guys early. And I'm talking about with the first unit. So keep your eyes out for that. But I think that that's going to be a do too. Number 4, I want you to force feed Kaleb Jackson the football. Look, I know that you do not want to get I know you don't want to get a premier running back hurt in a game like this when you just had another one hurt in John Emery. I really want to see Kaleb Jackson start getting loose and involved in this running game. Here's the thing. I know that your running back rotation last week, I understand what Frank Wilson was trying to do. He was trying to ease Kaleb into the game, okay, and that let John and let Josh, kind of the seniors and veterans, get some things moving, get the jitters out a little bit, and then let Kaleb Jackson get moving. They got away from it. They got away from him. And I think he is the most dynamic right now. He is the most dynamic guy in that room. You got to give Caden Durham and him some touches. I'm not saying sit Josh Williams at all. It's not what I'm saying. But I think that if you're going to run the football, it's going to need to be with 28 and 29. Let me get to this too, since we're on the point. So John Emery tore his ACL yesterday. And Wilson Alexander reported that, it happened at practice and, some things that I had heard. It was a non-contact injury. It was on the other knee. There were some questions like maybe was he putting too much strain on the knee? I don't know, man. Like, that's so difficult. You can never predict those types of things, especially at running back. Guys, you have 3 scholarship running backs right now. And I got to tell you, I am worried about that. I think that, ironically, the John Emery news going down is bigger than people understand. Because God forbid, like, what if Kaleb Jackson gets a little banged up in this game and you go into a game with Josh Williams and Caden Durham? What if Josh Williams gets nicked up in this game? And God forbid you got 2 scholarship running backs going in on their first real away game, road game, that they will be a feature of this. I'm worried about what's at running back, because running back is not a position that has a long shelf life, right? Injuries are going to happen in that position. It's just like it's inevitable that guys throughout the season are going to get banged up, and that's why you need deep running back rooms. You had one last year. Like, if anything else happened, you at least knew that Noah Cain, who had double-digit touchdowns in 22, talking about last year, going back from 22, like, Noah Cain can come in and be serviceable. And he was. I mean, man came in against Florida, caught a touchdown pass from Jaden Daniels. I'm worried about the inexperience outside of Josh Williams in that room. And I know that some of you are going to be upset that they continue to throw Josh out there, but they're going to have to in certain situations. Where's the Trey Holly case? And I don't know what Trey Holly's been doing. I don't know if he's been staying conditioned. I don't know if he's been working out. I have no idea what's been going on with Trey Holly. That case is going in front of a judge this month. Guys, you need Trey Holly for depth alone. They might have some good walk-on running backs in that room. You can't rely on that, because the likelihood that any of those guys can play and be serviceable in the SEC is not high. It really, really isn't. So even though I want Kaleb Jackson to really be featured here this week, I'm also terrified of doing that, because you got South Carolina next week. And listen, South Carolina is a team that is, how do I want to say this? I think they might be Rudy Poo. I think South Carolina might be ass. I think Kentucky's going to whip their ass this week. Go Big Blue. That's a hostile place to play, man. I get it's at 11 a.m. I know it's hostile. I just talked myself out of my own things that you got to do. I don't know what you do there, man. I really don't. I don't know what their backup plan is at the current moment. We'll see. We'll see. we got to 5 and 6 on that one. So here's the last one that I'll get to. Number 6. 5, force it. 6, depth. What are you going to do there? Number 6. Put something on film of Garrett Nussmeier running the football. Guys, I swear to God, the first play from scrimmage for me would be a zone read and make Garrett Nussmeier pull it and run and get down. Don't take a hit. I don't want him getting hit. Let me tell you why. USC staff came out this week in some press conferences. I don't know if y'all saw this. And they basically said that they had zero fear that Garrett Nussmeier would ever pull any of these zone reads or RPOs and run with it. And they sold out in the running game. And if they had to live with Garrett Nussmeier breaking a 10-yard run on them, they would have been like, all right, whatever. You need to put on film that Garrett's not going to be a lame duck that can't be athletic and run the football. Brian Kelly was asked today on the SEC teleconference about this. Mike Scarborough asked him, are you going to get Garrett's legs involved here? And I think that that's something that's very interesting because they had to have told Garrett to not run the football. And I think the reason that they are doing that is because they don't trust either one of Ricky Collins or AJ Swan. They don't. You got to put something on film that he can pull the rock and get you 5 yards and get down. That you still got to play disciplined football. Because if you don't play disciplined football, look, we'll get this. Thank you for the free 7 yards. Thank you for those free 7 yards that you just gave us. It's time to rebound, man. Look, I think that this game is more important for the coaching staff than it is the players. Somebody asked a comment in here, and I missed it. But no, MC asked this. Is all 6 of your comments or all 6 of your points, do they equal things that you want to see done by the coaching staff? Yes. Everything that LSU needs to accomplish this week, for me, boils down to the coaching staff. How can they make the adjustments that they really need to make? Because I'm going to tell you something, man. The more I watched this USA game 3 times, and I know I'm a psychopath for doing it because it hurts even worse every time I watch it. I think you left so much on the field because of coaching. So much. And I'm not talking about defense. Some of it on defense, yes. But I expect some of those things from Lincoln Riley. I mean, guys, didn't they score 28 points against that 2019 team too? Like, that defense didn't stink either. You forget how Lincoln is when he calls plays sometimes. He will light you up given the opportunity. He's a great play caller, guys. You know, it's funny. And just saying that, it reminded me. Go to any Ruffino and Joe show. So me and my co-host Joe, we do the National College Football Show. If this is the first time that you've ever watched us, we talked about USC a lot this offseason, like a ton. And I kept warning Joe, like, listen, man, do not sleep on Lincoln Riley, as most are doing in the national media, of how he's a play caller. I really believe last year that Caleb Williams got too much out of the system and it killed him, and Lincoln didn't know how to reel in Caleb Williams, if he's even a player that you can reel in. I don't know, man. I don't know.